What comes to mind when you think of a family? When I say the word family, for example, perhaps you would think of your own family. Firstly, your mother and your father, your siblings, brothers and sisters. Then you would probably think of uncles and aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, and then even more extended families, etc. If we take a look at the dictionary definition of family, there are 2 points that are worth mentioning. The first is that a family is defined as a basic social unit consisting of parents and their children, considered as a group, and whether they are living together or not. Now, this definition is the one we're familiar with. The second definition of family is more broad-based and refers to a group of people closely related by blood or marriage as parents, children, uncles, aunts, and cousins. Friends, every year after the celebration of Christmas, which as we all know takes place on December 25th, the Sunday immediately following Christmas Day is always the Feast of the Holy Family. And so you can see that it is always held on the Sunday between Christmas and New Year's Day. But do you know why the Feast of the Holy Family is held during this time? It's fairly obvious if you think about it. After celebrating the birth of Christ on Christmas Day, we now have Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. That is, son, mother, and father, which together completes a family based on the definition that was just mentioned earlier. And so here, I'd like to share 5 important points for us to reflect on this feast day of the Holy Family. Also, just a reminder to please be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already done so to receive weekly reflections on faith. And if you find the reflections helpful, please be sure to share it as well. Thank you. Now let's get started. And I invite you to listen to the end because the last and final point is very important for all of us. Point number one, what unites all of us as one family? Well, what unites all of us as one human family? What is the common trait that unites every single person in this world together? The answer is our humanity. We all come from one common human family. The problem is oftentimes we forget about that. We forget that our brother in India and in Australia and in Spain, or our sister in Mexico or Colombia or Canada, all over the world that is, we are all united into one human family. We are all humans. And it's important for us to take a step back and think about this because it's so important. Because if all of us are one human family, then why is there so much hatred amongst other people or other groups of people? Why is that? And if you think about it, it's really sad to see all this too. After all, we must be reminded over and over again that we are all part of one human family. And if we are all brothers and sisters in the one human family, then it's important for us to love everyone. That's right, to love everyone. Now, I understand that some people are mean and cruel and unlovable, but did you know science and psychology has proven that every single human person, even the meanest and cruelest of people, criminals and bad people, even the worst of people, can become lovable. They can change. And Jesus Christ can change their heart. The problem with a lot of societies today is that we focus so much on punishments and penalties that we forget that the main purpose of the whole penal and criminal justice system is to reform the offender. And the best way to reform any offender is to love them, to show them lots of love. Anyways, more on this topic at another time. Let's move on. Point number two, the joys of family life. You see, family life is always joyful. Consider this. Your family will always be your family from beginning to the end. You might not be able to depend on your best friends when you go through difficulties, maybe trials and tough situations. Sometimes your best friends might even abandon you. But here's the thing, you can always depend on your family members. The phrase, "that's what family is for," is true. You can count on your family to help you through your problems, no matter how small or great. Now, whenever I say this, I always get tons of objections. People would disagree and say things like, but my family is broken. Everyone is evil and bad. None of my family members support me, and they always tear each other down, etc. Now, sometimes there are certain wounds and hurts that are caused within the family that are so deep. Sometimes families hate each other and they cause these great wounds and they refuse to forgive each other. Sometimes they refuse to even see each other and they move so far away from each other as far as possible. Well, on this note, I simply like to share this thought. You see, family is a gift. The bond of your family member is by blood, which is thicker than water and much deeper than friendship. If you learn to love and to forgive your family members, you will find joy in your family life. Remember though, that love and forgiveness must always, and I mean always, be balanced with justice and equity. Let's move on. Point number 3, the challenges of family life. The challenges of family life. Now, earlier we spoke about the joy of the family. There's also the other side to family life, like two sides of the same coin, so to speak. So then let's talk about the challenges of family life. I think for many of us, we can imagine a family who has gone through tough times, who is facing difficulties and hardships, whether it is financial hardships or even more serious problems within the family. It would be good if we are able to reach out to a struggling family to help them in their need when we know about it. But you see, the problem with families today is oftentimes you have single mothers and single fathers. The breakdown of the institution of marriage leads to the breakdown of the family, and as a result, you have problematic and broken families. For example, I met a number of people who have grown up in difficult family situations, sometimes even beyond our imagination. Some time ago, I spoke to a successful man who shared his childhood story, and it is very moving. And as I can see too, beyond this man's successes, he is a loving man who is willing to forgive, to let go, and as a result, he's always joyful. His story is something like this. When he was growing up, his mother had an addiction to alcohol and drug, and his father was in prison. And as a little child, his mother would always tell him, "Daddy will return home soon." And he always believed his mother. So he'd look out the window every day, waiting for his father to return. Now, after about a year of waiting and longing for his father's return, he realized that his dad was never going to return. And you know, statistics say that kids like him will become broken as adults. But clearly, he was not part of the statistics. He was able to overcome this by loving and forgiving his parents, which, as you can imagine, was very hard for him to do. But in doing so, he was able to free himself from the bonds of brokenness. Anyways, more on that at another time. For many of us, it's so easy for us to blame our background, our broken families, but this would be a good opportunity for us to trust and allow God to help us heal the wounds of the broken family and to help us find joy in our life. And on this note, remember to always stay connected with people and especially with your family. You know, research has shown that those who die young die from loneliness besides disease and illness. Anyways, more on that as well at another time. Let's move on. Point number 4. Point number 4, family as a social fabric of society. You know, this point is really important. There's a saying that goes like this: so goes the family, so goes the society. Again, so goes the family, so goes the society. And this means that family is the basic social unit of society. And if the family is a basic social unit of society, then the breakdown of the family eventually leads to the breakdown of society. So family is the basic unit that together forms the community. And a community is a group of people who are living together in a specific location, and they have specific or similar backgrounds and cultural heritage, etc. And the communities together form the society. So if you have the breakdown of the very basic unit of society, which is the family, well, what happens next? It's clear. The breakdown of the family leads to the breakdown of society. This is really important to note. So, it's important to pay attention to the family. So goes the family, so goes the society. Now, if we want to build a good society, if we want to build a good community, we must focus on the family. We must focus on building good family relationships that are built on trust and on love. Which then brings us to the final point of this reflection here. The final point. Point number 5. What makes a holy family? So let me ask you, what constitutes a holy family? In other words, what makes a holy family holy? A lot of times when I ask this question, you know what the number one response I get is? They say a holy family is one that has no problems. Because, well, they're so holy, they have no problems. But the reality is this. Every single family has problems. You might look at your family and say, well, my family has so many problems, lots of problems, right? But then look at my neighbor next door. His family has no problems. Why can't my family be like his family? Well, I'm sure, as we all come to realize, our neighbor's family probably has problems as well, right? We might not see it, but it's probably the case of the grass is greener on the other side, so to speak. We just don't know what's on the other side until we go and check it out for ourselves, right? So what makes a family holy? Friends, it's faith. Faith in God. It means to entrust all our joys and the pains of family life to God. Take a look at the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. What makes them holy? Their love for each other, yes, but it is their faith in God and in doing God's will which makes them holy. Perhaps you heard of the phrase, a family that prays together stays together. This is so important, and I'll repeat it again. A family that prays together stays together. Let me ask you, does your family pray together? And so here's the final point I'd like to share. On this feast day of the Holy Family, be sure to spend time with your family. And by this, I mean spend quality time with your family. Put away the phones and other distractions. Spend time together as a family. And I also challenge you to pray together as one family. May God shower down His abundance of grace and blessings on your families this day. And may God bless you.